There's no easy way out.
Some people think, well, I don't have a brand, I just have a business. Well, you do have a brand, and your brand does mean something to your customers. You know, I say a brand is a combination of who you think you are and what your customers know you are. And hopefully who you think you are and what your customers think you are match. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the No Easy Way Out podcast. I'm your host, Tony Nash, and we are coming to you, as always, from the Woodworth building in beautiful downtown Owasso, home to our company, AZ Branding Solutions, where we grow your brand from A to Z. So we want to talk about, again, Caitlin Clark. Man, she is taking up a lot of media time right now because she's just been absolutely incredible. And the attention that she has drawn to the women's game, and it's not just her, but let's be honest, it's primarily been her. What she has done, Final Four just finished, and obviously the record-breaking numbers, we'll talk all about it. But we want to talk today about the WNBA brand and why they should be embracing Caitlin Clark right now, and their current and former players should be embracing Caitlin Clark right now, because this is the best opportunity they've had to grow their brand. So, as I do most of the time when I talk basketball, I bring in my oldest son and one of our team members here, the guy who's taking over our print operations right now. And that is Mustache Micah.
The one and only.
Micah Nash. Welcome back to the show, man. What about Caitlin Clark, dude? I mean, the women's Final Four, it was absolutely amazing.
It was. I mean, what is there to say? What already hasn't been said, you know? I felt like every new game she was breaking a record.
Every game. Well, and not just records on the court, but even viewership records. And the Elite Eight, Final Four, and then the championship all broke the all-time women's record. Each time got higher and higher. And the women's championship got way more views than the men's game. Actually, the women's championship had 18.1 million views. At the highest peak, had 25 million.
Wow.
The men's game at the highest only had 14 million.
Yeah.
And the thing that's cool is right now I could list off for you five or six women's basketball players, which I've never been able to do. I can only maybe list a couple of the men's players right now.
I would say the same for me as well. I mean, that's exactly how I feel.
They have some star power right now. They have people that are putting butts in the seats. They have drama. They do have drama. They have good basketball. I mean, it's just exciting to watch. And I never thought I would watch girls basketball. Never. I just never have been interested. But man, I find myself like must-see TV, recording when I know I can't get there on time, just as I would with any other sports match I've been interested in.
I can attest to that as well. He is very, very engaged with this whole Women's March Madness tournament.
I think part of it is because, my oldest daughter, she's really into it as well. So I've enjoyed watching with her. We've really never watched a lot of sports together. So being able to do that with her has been pretty amazing. But I think, man, right now the NBA draft is next week or whenever this airs. I don't know if it already happened, but I think that the WNBA right now, it's a struggling brand. It's a subsidized brand by the NBA. So the NBA has done a good job. So you got to think they're going to jump in and do something here. But the WNBA, in my opinion, should be embracing this surge and attention to women's basketball and capitalizing on it however they can. Because their brand is struggling. It's not making money right now. You've had female players in the WNBA continuously appealing to make more money, to be paid the same as the men, blah, 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 even though they don't bring in a tenth of what the men bring in revenue. But here's an opportunity to maybe change that. But what we're seeing is, as opposed to, I don't know what the WNBA as an organization has done. I do know that they have agreed that 36 of the 40 Indiana Fever games this year are going to be nationally televised,
Wow.
which I think is a smart move
Yep.
because obviously they think Indiana is going to pick Caitlin Clark. So it seems like they understand what's about to happen. Obviously, they're getting TV rights that they've never gotten. They're selling sponsorships that they've never gotten. But what we're seeing is a lot of current and former WNBA players just throwing shade, man.
Yeah.
Just throwing shade. What do you think that's about?
I think it's a little bit of jealousy. I think it's a lack of foresight. I think it's a little bit of, why can't we pull in the viewers? Why aren't we getting the attention we feel we deserve? I feel like jealousy is the heart of it. And I don't think there's enough foresight on their part to see, okay, it's not about a player or a certain player, it's about the game overall. And the women's game has been declining over the years, and now all of a sudden it's this great uptick.
Surge.
So I feel like if you were one of those players, you would do everything in your power to increase that, realizing that whatever attention is brought to the game overall is only going to bring more attention to you and your team,
And more
and more
money
money for you, more money for the organization. So it's a lack of foresight, in my opinion.
A rising tide rises all ships, right?
Yep.
The water goes up, all the ships go up. And so if you're in the WNBA and you're a player and you feel underpaid, a player like Caitlin Clark, who's bringing with her, by the way, Nike,
Yeah.
Gatorade, State Farm, and a bunch of other big-time sponsors, bringing it to the game. So, they're going to be invested. That there's an opportunity now for these other players who maybe feel like they were underappreciated.
Yeah.
I can understand maybe a little jealousy, like, hey, I've hit long threes. Why does nobody want to watch me? Or I've scored 30 points a game. Why does nobody? I won college championships and nobody cared. And I can understand from a competitor that kind of jealousy, but just from a pure brand or business understanding, like, I need eyes.
Yep.
If I want to make more money, I need people in the seats. And Caitlin Clark, whatever happens, she's getting that.
Yep.
You could analyze why. You could say all the things you want, but she's making it happen. So I, as a WNBA player, I need to do it. When Jordan came in, a lot of people were jealous of all the attention he was getting.
Yep.
But you listen to those guys, especially from the 80s and 90s, who NBA players back then weren't making anything.
No.
They had $100,000 a year contracts, $80,000 a year contracts, which maybe for that time was a lot of money, but nothing compared to today. But all of those guys tell you, like, we all ate off of Michael Jordan's success.
That's exactly what it made me think of. You even hear guys like Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boys who hated MJ. They hated playing against him. They hate his legacy even today. But he even admits, okay, I realize, hey, he's bringing us more money. He's bringing us the views, and that's more important than whatever hate I had for him. So whatever hate I had for him, I still respect the sight that he brought to our game. So.
Right. I love the clip from the Dream Team where you hear Michael Jordan telling Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, who own the 80s, like, hey, guys, there's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah, I love that.
And they didn't even argue with him. Like, yeah, he's the new guy, because they realized, like, MJ brings the sex appeal.
Yep.
Like, he brings the fans, and that's going to help all of us. And, I like I said, I know that maybe some of this is these players are looking for hot takes.
Yeah.
They're looking to get views. But in my opinion, it's a big mistake if they don't just say, you know what? We're jumping on the bandwagon here. We're going to be Caitlin Clark fans, or we're going to at least propel her. And some of them did. And some of the shade that was thrown maybe wasn't directly. I think Diana Taurasi on their show said, these girls, they might look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but now they're coming to play against grown women.
Yeah.
So, she's in for they're in for a reality check.
Yeah. Well, you can either be the hero or the villain. And so if you're not the hero and Caitlin Clark, there is an upside to being the villain and being opposed to her, because whatever fans are cheering with her, there's also fans cheering against her. So if you're part of that, against her side, you will also have views on yourself as well.
Sure, absolutely. But like I said, I think that, it probably is true what Diana Taurasi is saying. You see guys that are phenomenal in college, they go to the NBA, and it takes them a couple years. Very few college players have went right into the NBA and just been the same player. It takes a couple years. So you got to think probably will be the same thing with Caitlin Clark. Every player on the court is going to be a baller, as opposed to in college where you got some role players. And I think the women's game has not caught up yet to where, like, in Division I, every player on the court, men's, they're a baller, right?
Yep.
And I think in Division I women's, they're still ballers, but I think because there's not as many high caliber talents, obviously like Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, they're still kind of leagues above the rest. There's not as much parity. So that's why you see a team like UConn who can win like 7 years in a row without losing, because all the best players go there, and there's not enough talent in the women's game yet to counteract that. But I think over the next 5 to 10 years, like we talked about in another episode, you're going to see the talent level go up in the girls' game, and you're going to see that affect everybody. So back to the WNBA, it's a league that has just been struggling. Like I said before, I've never watched a WNBA game ever. The Detroit Shock, we're not around anymore. They won back-to-back championships. Didn't watch a single game.
No.
Didn't go to the Palace. It was 40 minutes from my house. Didn't watch anything. I just wasn't interested.
Yeah.
And their team lost. Bill Lambier, one of my favorite Pistons, was a WNBA coach. He coached Minnesota and Detroit and won a lot of games. Didn't go to a single game, didn't watch a single game. So it hasn't been able to draw me in yet. I already plan to watch the season opener that Indiana has coming up here in a couple weeks. I plan to see what it's like. Hopefully it's something that can draw me in. The idea of having basketball to watch throughout the summer is appealing to me because there's really not basketball much in the summer. So hopefully it translates.
Yep. I think it will translate. And, we saw the same thing in the NBA. Obviously, we're talking about with Jordan. Like, the sport evolves with, the audience and evolves with the players. So if the players, or specifically a player, is upgrading the game's bound to follow that, because really it all follows the money. So if the money is on Caitlin Clark, if that's what the people want to see, that's what people are going to idolize. That's what people are going to try to model their game after, and it's going to bring the whole WNBA up with it.
Speaking of the money,
yes,
it made me think of one of our favorite comedians, Bill Burr, who, by the way, we wrote an article on this topic. It's on our website, azbranding.com. Go there. We write articles every week, but we write an article about why the WNBA should be embracing this. But Bill Burr did a segment on his last Netflix special about the WNBA, and it had me rolling. And maybe if you can find some decent clips where he's not, he's very colorful in his language. But he talks about how the women of the WNBA have been playing in front of 500 to 600 people a night for a quarter of a century and wonder why they're not making more money. And he talks about how it's not just women, because people watch Serena Williams. They watch the women in the UFC. So it's not just that people are against women. It's just the WNBA. But then it talks about, he says, where are all the feminists? He's like, all the feminists that are claiming that people should love the WNBA, why aren't they going to the games? Why aren't they filling the stands? And he's like, this isn't on us. We have our sports. Women, you failed the WNBA. You failed the WNBA. So he does it in a comedic way, probably way funnier than what I'm doing, but it is hilarious.
Yeah.
But it highlights in a comedic way a reality,
right?
Because he says you have shows like The Real Housewives or The Kardashians where it's just women trashing each other, just tearing each other apart, and they all want to watch that.
Yeah.
The Bachelor, where a desperate woman goes on and tries to date 40 different men. I mean, that's what women want to see. Instead of watching a bunch of ladies come together for a common goal and unite together in a team to win a championship, which is what inspires me, women want to see each other trashing each other.
Yeah.
And, so now you see these current players just trashing on.
And I think a big problem is the WNBA. The WNBA. It's a hard word to say.
We'll get there.
It's hard to get it out of my mouth. They're trying so hard to emulate the NBA, when in reality you're not going to. You need to make your own thing.
Until you can dunk.
Until you can dunk, it's not going to be the same. Don't try to be the same as the NBA. Try to make it your own thing and give it a different reason to watch. Like I watch Caitlin Clark for a different reason than I watch Steph Curry or someone else in the NBA. There's different things they bring to the table. So be your own thing. Don't try to mimic. Make it your own thing, and make it that the reason why people want to watch.
Yeah, embrace what's happening. And then, as we've talked about in other episodes, develop the stories, develop these characters out. I mean, the reason I started watching basketball is the Bad Boys and Air Jordan, and he had the shoes, and I want to be like Mike, and I kind of saw that. Then I go find myself playing in a youth rec league, and then I'm playing some other basketball, and then I start watching, and I follow him with other players, and you got Sir Charles Barkley, who has this whole character about I am not a role model, and they did a good job of developing these stories, and I think the WNBA needs to do the same thing. But they got to stop hating on each other.
Right.
I realize that men's players hate on each other too, but they have a little more of a fan base right now. I think right now these women kind of need to unite under this new idea of excellence in women's sports. The quality of the game is going up, and embrace on how they're going to tell that story and get more fans to watch the games.
And separate the politics from the sport, I don't want to go and watch a game to hear about all the politics happening. I want to go watch the sport. So keep those separate and
That's it.
Make the sport the thing that people want to see.
I hate it in men's sport when they make it about politics.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to watch the game. I love the competition. I love a little bit of drama when it comes to rivalry. Like why two teams, like watching Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, that was fun. There was some internal drama that happened on the court.
Yeah.
It wasn't just hating. It was just two players that were competing and going at each other. So build around that, build around those stories. You have the WNBA draft that's coming up, or maybe by the time this is airing, it's already been. But build some excitement around that. Get some merch out there. Get some people excited and ride this wave. Hopefully, the NBA started in the 50s. and it really didn't grow in popularity until the 80s.
Yeah.
And it was because of Bird, Magic, MJ, Isaiah Thomas, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, all these guys. And then they came together in one iconic team, the Dream Team.
Yep.
And then that's really when basketball became a global thing. And now the NBA is really a global phenomenon. It took time. It wasn't as popular. It wasn't on TV that much when I was a kid. And it's going to take the WNBA time. It's going to take a few generational players to really tell the story, make it iconic. But the league and its players need to embrace it. If I were the commissioner of the WNBA, I'd be telling our current players and our former players, hey, embrace this wave.
Yeah.
Let's lift it up. Let's draw attention to it. Let's not detract people from it.
Yeah. There's a little bit of like fear, I feel like, that way for anyone to say that one player is better than the other. We've kind of lost that. Like for them to say, okay, listen, Caitlin's bringing the views, so let's uplift her. It's like they're afraid to almost say that because they don't want to offend anybody or they don't want to make anyone feel lesser. But the stats speak for themselves right now, and the views speak for themselves. So
yeah, and you can tell the story without having to say those exact words.
Yeah.
But again, just embracing it, I think, is the right strategy, and I think they need to be doing it. So, WNBA commissioner, I don't even know who you are. Do you know the WNBA commissioner?
I have no idea.
Is it Adam Silver?
I think Adam Silver.
Does he run both?
Both. I think he's both.
I have no idea.
I know he just announced the new Golden State WNBA team, so I'm thinking that he's
really?
the same. Yes, Golden State's bringing a WNBA team to their region. So.
I would like Detroit to bring a team back just so that I can drive closely and watch some Caitlin Clark games. We've already been talking about going to Indiana. By the way, have you seen this? Opening night tickets on StubHub right now for Indiana Fever are going for $900 plus.
Wow.
People are buying them and reselling them on eBay for like $9,000.
Sheesh.
So maybe we should just buy some tickets and resell them.
There we go.
But we've already been talking to some friends about going down to Indianapolis to watch some games. So hopefully the WNBA will ride this wave and see some growth in their league, and hopefully it'll be tolerable to watch. You know, I'm not as excited to watch the WNBA as I was to watch, March Madness. The women weren't even allowed to use the March Madness branding until 2 years ago. So there is progress happening. But I'm not as excited to watch it, but I'm hoping that I will be and hoping that other people will be. And it's something fun to watch because I love watching some sports. So any final thoughts on that, Micah?
No, I think we hit it all on the head. WNBA, get behind Caitlin Clark. Players, get behind Caitlin Clark. Make it work. Make it what the fans want. Think about the fans first rather than your own biases, and just increase the game overall.
Fans First. That's a great book, by the way. If you haven't read Fans First, you got to read it. It's a great book. But listen, businesses, brands, what does this have to do with you? When you see a wave of momentum in your industry, in your community, in your business, you got to ride that wave. You got to maximize it. You got to capitalize on it. You got to take it. You don't know when and how long you will have that attention. So make the most of it, but you got to protect your brand. When you see things that are lifting up your brand, don't just always be in competition with everybody else. Figure out how you can take advantage of that and ride that wave.
And be willing to adjust. Be willing to adjust to the trends. Now, don't divert from your core or who you are, but be willing to ride those waves and be willing. Don't be afraid to change for the better.
Absolutely. All right, we want to take just a minute here to pause for station identification and thank one of our sponsors for this season, and that is Delk Siding. Are you in need of siding solutions for your new home, your commercial building, or insurance repairs? Look no further than Delk Siding Solutions. Their team of experts is dedicated to providing professional and reliable services to their clients in Lansing, Owasso, Flint, and surrounding areas. They're telling their story. Whether you need full siding replacement, new build installation, or damage repair, they can help. Contact them today to schedule a consultation and estimate. They will work closely with you to understand exactly what your needs are, provide you with the best possible solutions, and, this is the best part, they're going to meet your budget and timeline. So that's important. Let Delk Siding Solutions take care of all your siding needs. Get a hold of them. Great company. We highly recommend Delk Siding Solutions, and thank you for your support. So before we go, we are going to do something that we do at the end of every episode, and that is we rank something. Mm-hmm. And we decided, Caitlin Clark is projected to go number 1 in the WNBA draft. I don't see any reason why she wouldn't.
Right.
But will she live up to the hype? Will she be a bust? And we got to talking about there's been a lot of college players that had all kinds of hype, all kinds of mojo around them, and then went to the NBA and weren't
Didn't live up to the hype.
Didn't live up to the hype. So we decided to rank our 5 most disappointing number 1 picks, or 5 bad choices for a number 1 pick in the NBA. And so we're going to go with these 5. Now, again, this is our opinion. So in the comments, by the way, in the comments, somebody's falling through the roof up there. In the comments, if you're going to say we're hating on women's sports, go ahead and say what you're going to say, but that's not all what we're saying. We're just saying that this is what should happen if the women's game is going to grow. But also in the comments, we want to hear from you what your opinion is on some of the most disappointing picks ever in the NBA draft. We're going to NBA, okay? So I thought one honorable mention. Do you have one?
I did have an honorable mention. As I was thinking about it, it kind of in my head had more of a bad rep for it than this player had a bad rep more than his actual stats showed. But I would say Zion Williamson. Now his stats have been greatly improving, but you think about it, before he even touched the NBA floor or ever played an NBA game, he already had his own shoe. He already was on the cover of 2K. He already had a huge contract. He had all these fans.
A lot of hype out of high school.
A lot of hype out of high school even. He was, projected to be the next, big thing. And then he had the injuries, and he wasn't quite the same when he first came back. Now he is steadily on the up, but still
lost some weight.
Yes, lost some weight, but still, even what he was projected to be, he's still not quite there. So
Not quite. He wasn't even an all-star this year, was he?
he was not. No.
So, yeah, hasn't quite lived up to the hype yet. Maybe he's still very young, but doesn't quite seem to have lived up to the hype. My honorable mention is from my senior year, 1998, Michael Olowokandi. Probably never heard of him, but I did because he was hyped in college. He was supposed to be great, but he got picked, didn't do much in the NBA. But listen who the other teams passed on to pick Michael Olowokandi. Mm-hmm. They passed on Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, and Paul Pierce. So what a big disappointment. They picked Olowokandi, who was supposed to be this big hype player. But all right, who's your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 is Kwame Brown. He was the 2001
Michael Jordan's first pick ever.
Yeah, he was the 2001 number 1 overall pick. He played 13 seasons in the NBA. He only played 607 games out of those 1,066 games, though. So I'm sure there was some injuries or something within there.
He just wasn't good.
He just wasn't good. He only averaged 6 points a game, 0.9 assists. So very forgettable career.
So I don't know if you know this, but this is when MJ bought the Wizards or was part owner. It was his first draft pick.
Wow.
Bust. And so he had a few draft picks over the years and never really did that good. Wasn't a good drafter. My number 5 is Greg Oden. 2007, again, Greg Oden was supposed to be the big man of the future. He was going to dominate the league. He didn't play it. He was drafted in 2007, didn't play till the end of 2008.
Wow.
Only played a total of 101 games in his career.
Sheesh.
But get this. This is who the Blazers passed on to pick Greg Oden. Kevin Durant.
Wow.
So they picked him over it. So imagine had the Blazers picked KD, what that might have done for their franchise. So number 4.
My number 4 is, and I picked this name just because I feel like it's funny, Joe Smith.
Joe Smith, yep.
He was the number 1
about having him.
The number 1 overall pick in 1995. He only averaged played 1,030 games, so he played a lot of games.
He was an all-star once or twice.
Yep, he missed out on 300 games, 16 seasons in the NBA, only averaged 10 points a game, 1 assist. So, I mean, that's not bad stats, but if you're the number 1 overall pick, you still got to be higher than that.
So Joe Smith at Maryland in college was a baller.
Yeah.
He killed everybody. Like, he was going to be the man. And he got picked over Kevin Garnett and over Rasheed Wallace, who both went on to have championship careers. But Joe Smith just did not come to fruition in the NBA. He was not the man. He was going to be on my list, but I decided not because I had some other good ones. My number 4 is DeAndre Ayton, 2018. Still young, had some opportunity. But the reason it was a bad pick is because who they passed on. They passed on Luka Doncic. They passed on Trae Young.
Wow.
They passed on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So the Suns,
Yeah.
who had a great team at that time and one good draft pick could have really changed the franchise, passed on Luka,
Wow.
which is a generational player. So, yeah, bad pick there.
Okay, we're on number 3.
Number 3.
Okay, my number 3 is Anthony Bennett.
Cleveland.
Yes, Cleveland. He played 4 seasons in the NBA. He only played 151 games, though. 4 points a game, 0.5 assists.
Less than 3 rebounds a game.
Yeah, so nothing too special there.
Yeah, Cleveland got 3 number 1 picks in 4 years. They picked Kyrie. They picked Andrew Wiggins, who they traded for Kevin Love. And then 2 years in a row got a number one. They picked Anthony Bennett, who was a bust.
Yeah.
Man, just was an absolute bust. But the year of that draft, there was nobody. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody good that's come out of that year. That draft class.
Yeah,
was
and the
pretty
fact that he
low.
only played 4 seasons is, kind of crazy.
He just got cut. He went
Yeah.
and played overseas, and he's just terrible. My number 3 is going to surprise you maybe a little bit. Is Blake Griffin.
Oh, wow.
2009. Blake Griffin had an all-star career. Was one of the best dunkers ever. Great player, average high 20s, came to the Pistons. But let me tell you why Blake Griffin was the wrong pick.
Okay.
Who they passed on. The Clippers could have had Steph Curry or James Harden.
Wow.
Now they have James Harden, but he's a much different player. So
Yeah.
Blake Griffin, although he was a great player, was a bad pick because of who they passed on. Of course,
Yeah.
it's always hard to tell.
Yeah.
Steph wasn't expected to be who he has become, but bad pick.
All right. My
Number
2 is Ben Simmons, the 2017 first
Yeah.
pick. 6 seasons in the NBA so far, 492. He's only played 330 games. He's averaging 14 points now, 7 assists, but just the drama surrounding him, the fact that
decide not to
just
play.
won't play just because he doesn't feel like it or
can't
wants to
practice.
move teams. Yeah, bad pick.
Bad pick. I had thought about putting him. My number 2 is going to shock you
Okay.
because some call him top 10 player of all time. Allen Iverson.
Okay.
Why was Allen Iverson a bad number 1 pick?
That's a good question.
He passed on Kobe.
Yeah.
Now, Kobe came out of high school. Nobody could have known.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, it's 2020. Now,
Right.
if I was Philadelphia, I definitely would have picked Allen Iverson.
Right.
But in hindsight, like, hey, you could have had Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe was from Philly.
Wow.
That
Yeah,
was
he
the
wanted to go
story.
to Philly.
He wanted
right?
to go to
Yep.
Philly. He worked out with Philly. They passed on him for Iverson.
Yeah.
Iverson was great. Never won a championship. Kobe won 5. Who made the wrong choice? I mean, I would say in hindsight, yes, Kobe was the right
Yeah.
pick, would have been the right pick, but Allen Iverson, was great.
My number 1 is pretty well known. Markelle Fultz. Just the amount of hype he had. He's played 7 seasons so far. He's only played 230 games out of those 7 seasons. He's averaging now 11 points, 4 assists, but now he's got that jump shot.
He's the most broke jumper you've ever
just
seen.
one of the
What
worst
happened?
jumpers I've seen in the
It's the
NBA.
equivalent of Charles
so
Barkley's golf swing.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's
It looks
rough. And I know there was some injury, but still, I mean, there's just an unfortunate pick.
unwatchable.
Yeah, unwatchable for sure.
Well, my number 1 pick, again, by some considered definitely a top 20 player, won 2 NBA championships, has a famous move called the Dream Shake. And it was the 1984 pick, number 1, Akeem Olajuwon.
Wow.
You know why I think that was a bad pick?
I would love to hear it.
They passed on MJ.
Well, okay, yeah. It's a
passed
pretty
on
big mistake.
MJ, I mean, of course, the Blazers picked Sam Bowie as
Yeah.
number 2,
Yeah.
and the Bulls got MJ because they already had Clyde Drexler and they
Yeah.
didn't need a guard. But man, the Rockets could have used the guard.
Yeah.
Back in those days, the big man was the dominator,
that
so
was
they
the
picked
thing.
Akeem Olajuwon, and Akeem had a great career, but he's no MJ.
No MJ.
And so, man, if you could take a look into the future, 5 years down the road, and analyze these picks, that would help.
Yeah.
But I picked mine not just on how the player did, but
Yeah.
who did you pass up to get
Yeah,
that person?
it's an interesting
I know
take.
this: the Pistons have never had a good pick
Oh,
since
no.
Isaiah Thomas.
Dude, I was trying to look. I was trying to find, okay, where did the Pistons mess up? They haven't even had a lot of, first round
They've only
pick-
had 2
number one
picks, which
yeah.
was Cade Cunningham and Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, so I mean-
Isaiah wasn't even number 1. I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
They never get the number 1 pick.
No, even when they do, they mess it up. Cade's doing all right, but not, the best.
So will Caitlin Clark be a bust? Will she be in the WNBA, but she's been in college? We don't know. Either way, WNBA, your brand is important. If you want it to grow, embrace this wave, ride this wave, do what you got to do to ride the momentum. Anything else before we sign off?
Nope, just WNBA. I cannot say that word. Change your name so I can say it easier.
Women's National Basketball Association.
But just don't be afraid to change. Ride the wave of Caitlin Clark. She's what the people want to see.
She's
just
great.
Admit it. She's great. And don't be afraid to change.
Stop the hate. She's
Stop the
great.
hate.
All right. Thank you for coming along with us. Again, we write about this stuff all the time at our blog at azbranding.com. We launch our podcast every Monday, so make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's some topics you want us to talk about, and we're excited to do that. So thank you for coming along. As my mother always said, you can't and never could until you've tried. So go out there and try something great, my friends, and don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.